Hello friends. Today we're going to talk about enrichment. This term seems to be really growing in our industry of dog daycare and boarding services, as if it is something that is a way for us to differentiate from one another without really a change in practices. The University of Doglando really coined this term in our industry. We were the first to use the term enrichment to describe an intentional and deliberate delivery of a program and best practices that we are doing every single day that can be observable, that are measurable, and that are unambiguous. We thought we may want to explain in a little bit more detail what these criteria for enrichment are and their definition, and then the things we might do to meet that criteria to help those who are seeking to make the transition from dog daycare to enrichment, and also to make a comparison with those who are already using the term enrichment but may not necessarily doing the enrichment practices. Our first criteria is called environmental enrichment devices. That's EEDs. These are objects that can be manipulated by the animal. These are objects that may be novel or pre-existing. Natural EEDs may include large and small branches, wood, wool, hay, flowers, sand, items left in the animal's habitat or environment to interact with. In our more restricted environment, we may look at EEDs such as brushes or balls, kongs, tires, constructed items that might look like puzzle boxes, piñatas, various PVC contraptions, etc. Some examples of environmental enrichment devices we have at Doglando are the jungle gym equipment that we have built with a lot of thought, and we continuously add to it or reconstruct it by repositioning different parts that are left loose so that we can move to change the orientation in which the dog interacts with that jungle gym, allowing that dog to elevate off the ground. These things in our environment really help and induce as well as enhance behavioral skills that the dog may have already or may not have, and further interactions between the dog and the restricted habitat that the dog is made to live in. That leads us to our second category of enrichment, which is the habitat enrichment. Habitat design is an important consideration for providing enrichment. Habitats should provide a variety of substrates, levels, and complexities. And these complexities should be given to usable space versus total space. And the ease of reaching or changing these platforms, tiers, ropes, nesting, denning areas, feed/water dispensers, and crevices/crannies for environmental enrichment devices. At Doglando, this is one of the things that we are so good at and have become quite clever in, and that is using our outdoor spaces to really promote the behavioral health we want to see in our dogs in terms of total use of the space we are giving them, as well as how they are using them. So what are they actually doing? What does their behavior look like? Going back to that jungle gym that I was talking about, it has different tiers. There are many places for denning, which many of our senior dogs choose to do, especially in the afternoon. It gives them a space to lie down without feeling that they are in danger. We have several different ways that we allow our dogs to take food through during the day, as well as access to water. There are tons of crevices and crannies for the dogs. This year we opened up almost 2 acres of land that is left in its natural form. So it has 2 separate ponds that are natural ponds, and the vegetation around the ponds, including the shrubs and the tall grass and trees and so on and so forth, is all the kinds of plants that have been part of this environment/property for a long time. And there are other forms of life that also share this space with us and our dogs, and it is incredible to see how much more purpose and desire and just enrichment, enhancement of behavioral health that we are able to witness in our dogs every day. And you just have to see it. You just have to see how rich it looks like to be them. And their behavior as well is something that we didn't create, nor could we have created without the help of this environment. At Doglando, habitat enrichment is critical for us, not just in our understanding, but the effort we make to constantly evaluate and seek ways and opportunities for us to enhance and ensure that these dogs have a robust learning space. The third category is sensory enrichment. Sensory enrichment is designed to address the animal's senses of smell, touch, hearing, vision, and taste, and elicit species-specific response, territorial, reproductive, or hunting behaviors. Olfactory stimuli may include natural predator, pheromone or prey scents, or novel scents such as spices or perfumes. Tactile stimuli may include a variety of environmental enrichment devices that can be manipulated, including materials of different textures such as straw, soft blankets, paper, burlap, cardboard, wood, hay, water, concrete, etc., etc. Auditory stimuli may include the presentation of natural sounds or animal vocalization recordings. Visual stimuli may include EEDs of different colors, those that move by wind or water, current, animals in the line of sight from other habitats, including people, video presentations, or mirrors. When we think of even us as learners and how we learn to engage in our environment as a human, we have taught ourselves to really ignore all 5 of our senses in the way that they can be used. We tend to use certain senses way more than others, and some not at all. We have become so visually dependent. We may be responding to some auditory signals in our environment, but sometimes we tend to even block those out and ignore them. And so for us, bringing the dog, including ourselves, back to that level of sensory awareness is so critical in what we consider what training should be, what enrichment should be, what learning should be. And that means creating a space that heightens the use and interaction of the learner and its environment through all its senses, making sense of the world through using the senses that we already have. We provoke the dogs to use their nose through scattering food in the ground. We provoke the dog to use their nose by hiding different stuffed toys with different scents on it, and allowing the dog to kind of just stumble upon it. And if the dog was curious enough, he would or she would ultimately lead upon it. We allow them to, especially in our open area, going in there, and you can just see their nose hit the ground, and the space is so vast, but it feels like as if you can hear them smell, and it just their behavioral response watching it makes you feel like, oh my gosh, you can really hear them smell that ground. They hit that ground so hard with that nose, and that ultimately leads them to all sorts of discoveries. That's one way of using smell. Texture and touch, for example, especially with our puppies. Our yards are filled with different substrates. So we have a sand yard, we have a rock pavement area that they have to walk through. We have different floorings in our house. One room is tile, one is wood. They have different thresholds in between the different transitions inside the house. They have a concrete area that they would walk through. When they go swimming, the only piece of artificial turf on our property is on our dock, and so they would feel that as they're going down the ramp or up the ramp, they would feel rubber, which as they are trying to claw into to get some grip, they could feel their claws or nails going into the rubber. Every one of our dogs are required to have a weekly bath with us. In that bath, they are exposed to different substrates like stainless steel and a hydraulic table, and what movement underneath their feet feels like. With our puppies, as part of their skill building courses, we will have them walk on roofing tile, bubble wrap. We have a room that is basically our toy library, where we have hundreds of different things that the trainer can pull from and just use to add experience or value to that dog who is ready for more. Really enhancing what their sensation of touch feels like when they come into contact with the environment. And something else about touch is how we even interact and touch our dogs in such a deliberate and meaningful manner that it's really not petting. It is a conscious, mindful effort and a form of contact that we give the dog, and in turn are watching to see how that dog reciprocates and enjoys that process. Basically, sensory enrichment is finding ways to utilize all senses, not just through certain points of your day, but as a continuous experience they have throughout the day while they're with us. The fourth category is food enrichment, and this includes food enrichment items. It could be flavored sprays or beverages. It could be food that can be presented in a variety of different ways to elicit feeding or hunting or foraging behaviors, which are our absolute favorite. Problem-solving strategies to facilitate behavioral conditioning. Food may be fresh, frozen, soft, hard, smooth, rough, heavy, light, or cold, or maybe incorporated into puzzle toys, or hidden and scattered in their habitat, or even buried, which is another one of our favorites because that connects to a sensory enrichment experience as well, when the dog has to dig through sand to be able to get to that food. We don't do that the day the dog arrives. We've built up to that point. So these dogs, when they first arrive, all the skills they are taught to perform, they lead up to these experiences. These are experiences they have been afforded to have, and we have taken that time to build them to that point so that they can have them. And when you're looking at it from the observer, it looks like, oh my gosh, this just looks so natural. It looks so easy. However, when you're on the other side of the fence and you are the one doing it, you realize, gosh, how conscientious you had to be, how much work that was, how much you had to think, and how much you had to be aware. It's hard. It's not just something that can happen automatically. And that's why we take this so seriously, that this term enrichment can't just be used by everyone unless we are actually doing it. All of us should be doing it. We want everybody to be doing it. We want to see the industry transform to it. But while that is our end goal, we really need to be on the same page on what it looks like so that the end user, the pet owner, and more importantly the dog, is having the same experience whether they're with us or anywhere else. Our fifth category is called social groupings. Social groupings should resemble those observed in the wild to facilitate feeding, grooming, social, territorial, and courtship behaviors. Mixed species exhibit and may also provide symbiotic or complementary activities between the species. Obviously, we are not creating social groupings whereby dogs can breed here. However, our social groupings are diverse and inclusive of all breeds, all ages, all sizes. And here's another really important feature of Doglando, where we're often caught in between this debate of, do you separate your dogs by size, by personality, by etc., etc. For us, no, we don't, because our commitment is the social grouping is a category that we need to achieve. We need to be able to ensure that our dogs are enriched by social groupings, and that means that a puppy can respect a senior dog. A senior dog can respect and understand and has the skills to tell a puppy, not now, no more, and I want to rest, back off. An adolescent dog needs to understand his or her limitations and tolerances, so on and so forth. So no, we do not segregate or separate these dogs, and we really strive to create an environment that is inclusive. It is inclusive of all breeds and all ages and all sizes, but it is also diverse in that we don't ever want to find ourselves accidentally only having one group of dogs. So meaning having a group of dogs in the yard, all of whom are the same age. So that's social groupings. The sixth category is behavioral conditioning. Behavioral conditioning for an animal's husbandry and the behaviors the animal offers that stimulate and increase intellectual focus of an animal. This is the animal's voluntary ability to participate in training sessions, exercises, games, play, etc. to maintain established or learned new behaviors. So the behavioral conditioning that we're talking about is similar to the behavioral wellness that we're looking for, which is an established set of behaviors, or does this dog need to establish those set of behaviors that we can use and they are able to voluntarily perform on their own, not because we are giving them food and reinforcing them every step of the way, but we did that to get to that point. So now the dogs are voluntarily participating, knowing what behavior to deliver when, and there is appropriateness there. But they can also voluntarily decide to say, I'm not feeling that good right now, or I'd rather not. I'm good, I'm content, I'm happy, I just want to lay here. So our commitment to enrichment ends at the behavioral conditioning or behavioral wellness aspect of ensuring that we are completely committed to observing and measuring the dog's success in his or her ability to voluntarily engage himself in what we consider appropriate. Obviously, in their mind, they're going to do what works for them, and it's our interpretation on whether it is appropriate or inappropriate. So I hope that this has helped you have a better understanding of what enrichment is when we use it in our everyday language. We use it just as much as one would use daycare. I also hope that maybe it has given you some insight into how intentional our program is and the work that our play professors are doing every single day. And if you would like to learn more about the different categories, you could look up the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, which is just the beginning of defining what enrichment should look like for animals in restricted habitats. Thank you very much.